Hi everyone, welcome back to Pac-12 Softball, the final swing. I'm your host, Aaliyah Jordan. If you don't know who I am, I played 7 years for UCLA, was a 2-time All-American 2019 national champion, and now I do this. So I talk about all things Pac-12 softball for the final year, and we are slowly but surely getting to the end. We only have 2 more weeks left of regular season Pac Series games. And then we have the second and final ever Pac-12 tournament. So we're getting down to the end. It's really sad, but I'm gonna start off with this past weekend's recaps because we had some exciting things happen. Have to start off, of course, with Stanford versus UCLA. UCLA went to Stanford and swept them. And I don't think anybody was expecting that except for maybe UCLA. UCLA actually outscored Stanford 13-1, or sorry, 13-3, not 13-1, 13-3, and it was a really, really good series. Game 1 was obviously the most controversial. UCLA won 1-0 in the extra innings. They won on the obstruction call. I wish I could bring it up and show you guys, but if you haven't seen it, runner on second, someone on UCLA, I think it was Taylor Stevens, hits a single up the middle. Center fielder for Stanford comes up, throws a dime to home plate, and kind of hosed the runner. And just, if it was up to me, she looked out. The umpire originally called her out, and Coach I must have, said something to the umpire, said, hey, can we get a video review on, I don't know if she asked for obstruction or what it was, but they came back and said that she was safe. And that is how UCLA won. And it was really controversial all over Twitter. It was a really big play because obviously they ended up winning on that. But I wish I could have saw the cameras that the umpire saw when they went to go review it, because apparently they have other cameras that the audience is not able to see, so they have different views that we can't see. So that's the only reasoning that I could come up with, that they must have saw something that allowed them to call her safe. Or, I shouldn't call her safe. Call the obstruction call. Because from the angles we saw, it looked like it was a pretty open lane. She gave her the lane to touch home plate. The ball beat her. Wasn't obstructing, but somehow they came up with the answer that she was obstructing back. So UCLA wins game 1, 1-0. Game 2 was 9-3, and then game 3 was 2-0. And this was a huge series because this basically, I don't want to say determined the Pac-12 rankings, but it definitely probably determined the number 1 ranking. Going into it, UCLA was number 2 in Pac. Stanford was number 1. They were only separated by 1 loss. Now UCLA is in number 1 for Pac. Stanford's number 2, Washington's number 3. This was a really big series because it basically is going to determine, the rest of the Pac-12 standings for the rest of the regular season, I should say. But again, that's all if UCLA continues to win the rest of their series. Same with Stanford, and they have another big weekend coming up this weekend. So yeah, this was a really good series to watch. UCLA's pitching staff did amazing, specifically Taylor Tinsley. She was actually this week's Pac-12 Pitcher of the Week. She pitched in all 3 games in the sweep of Stanford, recording 3 wins. She pitched all 9 innings in Friday's opener, striking out a career-high 15 while allowing just 5 hits and no walks in the win. Struck out 3 over 4 innings on Saturday, entering the game in the 4th inning, and pitched out of a 2-on, no-out jam. And lastly, she retired the final 8 batters on Sunday, striking out 2 in the 2-0 win. And after this weekend, UCLA moved way up in rankings. If we're going based on the Softball America rankings, going into this weekend, UCLA was ranked 16, and now they moved up 9 spots to number 7. So this was just a huge series for UCLA overall, and it just looks like they continue to get better each week and will hopefully potentially peak at the right time. But this was a huge series for them. Let's continue on with the honors this week. So player of the week, we had Kaya Altmaier from Arizona. She, in 3 games, hit .625, had 6 RBIs, 5 runs, and 2 hits, And freshman of the week, we had Reagan Shockey of Arizona as well. In 3 games, she batted .455, 5 total bases, 3 runs, and 2 RBIs. So congratulations to them. Moving on over to the Cal versus Washington series. Washington actually won that series, but not before Cal took Game 3 in the 4-3 walk-off win. The game was tied in the bottom of the 7th, and Ruby Malin retired the first 2 batters in the bottom of the inning. And then, so Cal was down to their last out. Tatum Monzaldo hit a double, and then Tiana Bell singled to score her and take the win. Going over to Oregon versus Oregon State. Oregon took the series, but Oregon State took Game 2, so they actually tied the series after Game 1. Obviously, Oregon then goes on to take the series, but Oregon State's just still continuing to take games from people here and there. I think they had a very slow start in the beginning, but even though probably are not still doing as good as they would have hoped for, they're still taking games from some big-time teams. I mean, taking a game from Oregon, taking a game from UCLA, they're still competing, and I love it. Arizona versus ASU. Arizona swept ASU in all 3 games. Utah actually had their bye week this weekend, but they swept the 4 games they played, including a game against number 22 Baylor. So that's all for recaps. If we go to current rankings right now, we have number 1 UCLA, number 2 Stanford, 3 Washington, 4 Oregon, 5 Arizona, University of Arizona, 6 Utah, 7 Oregon State, 8 Cal, and 9 ASU. We have another big weekend up ahead of us. We have the number 2 and number 3 teams playing. So Stanford and Washington, they play each other, and they're only separated by 1 loss. So Stanford's just, these past couple weeks, Stanford's just been having some tough teams. But this is going to be a really exciting weekend for both of them because it's like, again, it's going to determine the 1, 2, and 3 spots of going into the Pac-12 tournament. Arizona will play UCLA for the final time in the Pac-12. This is so crazy to me. If you guys don't know, UCLA and Arizona have had such a huge rivalry for a long time. I mean, I don't know when it went back to, but that's always been a thing. It's always been UCLA versus Arizona, especially in the past when UCLA, Arizona were really big schools, like not only 2, but like one of the bigger schools that, would alternate like who would win the national championship and Pac-12 series and all that stuff. So this is like a huge rivalry, and this is the last time it's ever going to happen because they're not going to be in the Pac next year, or there's not going to be a Pac next year. So this is insane. It's a really sad moment, but I think that it'll still be a really good game. It'll be a really good series. But yeah, it's really sad that this is the last time these 2 teams will match up. I hope at some point they can find a way to play each other in a non-conference game, depending on the schedules in the future. But I mean, I think we all want to see a UCLA University of Arizona matchup. I feel like that's always a great series. So that's all I have for you guys this weekend. As always, thank you so much for tuning in every Friday. I will be back next Friday with another recap. And we're slowly getting to the end, so this is not going to be here much longer. But I love doing these podcasts for you. And so let's move on over to our interview for the week. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Pac-12 Softball, the final swing. I'm your host, Aaliyah Jordan, and today I am here with outfielder senior from Oregon, Ariel Carlson. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me on.
So now your 5th year, your first year at Oregon was Coach Lombardi's 2nd year there, right?
Yep.
And it was also COVID. Was 2020. So I feel like you've had quite a journey in your career. Yeah. Can you tell me about your overall experience at Oregon and how the program has like grown and changed, and just how it's been being coached by Coach Lombardi?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in Eugene, so I was a Duck fan since I was like a baby. So it was always a dream of mine to play at Oregon. I committed in 8th grade, so I was young. This was before all the recruiting rules. I actually committed to Coach White, so I went through all of the coaching changes, but I stuck with it because Oregon like means the absolute world to me. And I truly believe that Coach Lombardi was the coach I was meant to play for. She's just such an amazing person, an amazing coach. She cares so much about us on the field, but also off the field, which I think is very important for a coach. And then I came in my freshman year with pretty high expectations for myself. I've always been a high achiever. But honestly, my career had a lot of like ups and downs. It was not all smooth sailing at all. I think I hit like 160 or something my sophomore year, and I was really struggling. But then I kind of just had a period between my sophomore and junior year where I really just like nose to the grindstone, blinders on, worked my butt off. And then coming out of that season was when I had like 15 home runs my junior year and then played really well last year. And then this year, I'm pretty happy with how I'm playing. So it's definitely was like a roller coaster 5 years, but I wouldn't change it for the world because I've learned so much.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. So I was looking at your stats. You're 2020 was doing amazing. Obviously, the season got cut off, and then
Yeah.
2021 you struggled, or yeah, technically 2021 you struggled a little bit. But I feel like ever since then, just look if you just look at your stats, like each year you've gotten better. So
Yeah.
what do you feel like you've changed as a hitter, as a player overall, or what are some things that you've worked on to continue that growth every year? Because I feel like that's hard to do it steadily increase every year and get better. So tell me like what that has been like for you.
Yeah, just like being very like process oriented and not result oriented. I really just got into a good routine of just taking care of myself, not just like as a softball player, but I got really into working out that summer between my sophomore and junior year. I got really into running actually, which is crazy. If you would have told like freshman Ariel that, I would have called you a liar, laughed in your face. But I just think it was very like therapeutic for me and just like I just enjoyed going for my daily run every day, which sounds crazy, but I still do. And I also got really into like meditation and just like reading a lot of like kind of mental health books and just focusing on myself as a whole rather than just like as a hitter because previously I was like, if if hitting too much was a thing, I probably did that. Like I was in the cages all the time. I was constantly like trying to fix my swing, like find little things to like help me. And I think it was almost like too much to where I was like, I don't know if you've heard the term like paralysis by analysis, but that was me. I was like thinking way too much. So really just working out, meditation, and then just eating well. I kind of, yeah, just things like that I think helped me a lot.
I have to know how many miles do you run a day?
Oh, if I'm just doing like a recovery run, I'll just do like 3 miles or something. But I've gotten up to like 6 or something like that.
I feel
Yeah.
like my entire TikTok is like run talk, and I'm like, how do I get on this? I hate running,
Yeah.
but it
I
looks
hated it too. I promise you can do it. I hated it, but here I am.
I just need to just like get into it. I've been in like a walk, like daily walks kind of kick. I love that. Running is just it's not my thing, but
Yeah.
I so badly wish I was like good at running because I want to get into it, but I don't know if it's for me.
Yeah. Well, both my parents like ran marathons, so they like
Oh my gosh.
helped me start because I was like, absolutely not. You cannot pay me to. But
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So Oregon is like currently top three in like almost all Pac-12 offensive categories right now. What do you feel like has been the biggest change for you guys offensively this year, if there was a change, or what do you feel like you guys as a team have really worked on, like coming like all obviously fall is like such a grind, so hard. You're not playing
Mhm.
any games, so you don't really get to see like the outcome. What do you feel like you guys did in the fall and then like early January to prepare for the season?
Yeah, I think one thing we talked a lot about in off season was we just looked at some like stat stuff, and I hate getting like wrapped up in stats, but we our downfall as a team was kind of being too passive at the plate and letting pitches go, or almost getting too caught up in what the other pitcher was throwing rather than what we want to hit. So for me personally, I simplified my hitting plan so much to the point where like I'm looking middle basically every single at bat, every single pitch. And then I'll make like box adjustments, like little like maybe physical swing adjustments. But I think as a team, we really just wanted to be a lot more aggressive this year and swing with a lot of intent, regardless of what the count was. I know a lot of people like to have like two strike approach, dumb it down, like simple, but we just really wanted to be aggressive and put our swing on the ball and just be very intentful
Mhm.
with the pitch that we swung at.
Yeah. So, I mean, going into that, so obviously you've done amazing this season. Do you feel like your approach at the plate is one of your greatest strengths, or what do you feel like is one of your greatest strengths, and how do you use that during the game?
Um, I mean, I swing hard and I swing with, like I said, a lot of intent. I'm looking to drive the ball literally every single pitch. So I think just taking it one pitch at a time is something rather than look at the at bat as a whole is something that I've really focused on this year. Um, and then like I said, just dumbing it down, keeping it as simple as possible. I think I previously I would get too focused on like hunting certain zones and like wrapped up in what is she gonna throw me, which of course is like important at times, but just really just not letting a mistake pitch go by is something I take a lot of pride in myself. Is if you're gonna get me out, you have to really hit your spots and not miss over the plate because I'm going to hit it.
Yeah. No, I love that. And you've come clutch. You've come through so many times, like clutch for Oregon. Can you share like a memorable home run or like a clutch hit from this season? And like what was going through your mind during that time?
Yeah, I think honestly, the this last game was honestly my favorite home run just because it was senior day. And I don't know if you know what happened to Hannah Delgado, but she was obviously hurt playing in our series against Arizona. So it was fresh off. She got to start that game, got taken out, the whole stadium, like she got a standing ovation. She deserved every second of it. She's an amazing person. So I was so happy to see her in a uniform again, even if she did have to get taken out. But it was fresh after that. So emotions were all super high. Our stadium was packed to the brim. And then I hit almost cleared the ball home run on senior day. So that was very special to me just because senior day is always very special.
Yeah. So being from Eugene, what do you how do you feel like what does it sorry, how do I say how to say this? What does it mean to you to not only be like in your hometown, but like you said, growing up your whole life, you were like a Duck fan, and
Mhm.
obviously the whole coaching change, I'm sure, really affected you. How does it, I'm sorry, I don't know why I cannot get the words out to say this question. What does it mean to you to be a Duck and to like carry on that legacy?
Yeah, it means everything to me. I remember watching games at Oregon before like the Jane was even built. Like it was just how field like this like not super fan friendly field.
I
It
remember,
was just
it's so
like
funny, I remember that.
stuck by yeah, it was just felt like it was stuck on campus, not a lot was going on around it. But I would line up outside before there was even reserve seatings. I would line up and wait to get the best seat possible. And I would go after the games, get all the autographs from the players. So I always knew how much that meant to me as a young fan. And so being at Oregon now, it means that much more to me. Just and so I try to stay after games, get as many autographs in as I can, talk to all the fans, all the little girls. That's probably what means the most to me is just all the fans support that we have and giving back to them. Just because I remember what that was like being a huge Oregon fan.
That's so funny. It's funny, like I feel like I had like such the opposite story, whereas like I mean I'm from Southern California, but like, I feel
Yeah.
like you're from Oregon, so maybe it's a little different, but growing up when I was playing like travel ball and like you're young, like everyone's dream was to go to UCLA. UCLA was like the dream school, like you get to stay close to home, and I was like, I do not want to go to UCLA. Like that is like the last place I want to be. And it's so funny like how the world works. Obviously, I ended up at UCLA and like couldn't imagine myself anywhere else. But it's just so funny that you say that because I feel like we have such opposite stories. But obviously, everything happens for a reason, and I definitely am so
I'm a
happy.
huge I'm a huge homebody family person.
Yeah.
So it, everyone I feel like wants just to get away, but I was like, I go home for like home cooked meals like all the time, or
So
just
like
like
how close do you live to campus?
my parents' house is like 10, 15 minutes away.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that is
But
huge.
they like did such an amazing job. They gave me so much space and like when I'm going home, it's like for me, they're not constantly in my business or anything like that. So it's like the best of both worlds because I have my like college life here, but then if I'm ever feeling homesick or something, just drive home.
Yeah. I mean, that actually is funny because that's like a big reason why I chose UCLA is because I knew I didn't want to go far like at all, like East Coast, like I was like, no way, like but
Yeah.
I was like, oh, UCLA might be a little too close. But now I'm like so grateful. I'm like, if anything happens, I'm
Mhm.
literally just a 2 hour drive and I go home
Yeah.
on the weekends all the time. So I was really grateful for that. Do you feel like, so do your parents travel to a lot of the away series, even though they're
Um,
all the home games?
I feel like maybe like 50% of them they tried to go to over the years, but this year, just because it's my last year, they've had one, at least one of them at every single away trip.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So looking back at your guys' schedule, you guys had like dropped a few games to some lower ranked teams, but you guys have also taken some games from some higher ranked teams. As a unit and as a team, how do you feel like you guys bounce back from the tough losses, but also use like the leverage from the big wins um to for your next opponents?
Yeah, I think we do just a really good job at flushing games. I think I look at our Cal series and I think that that's what taught us the most about how important it is to move on quickly because we lost the first game to Cal and it was just like an ugly game all around. Like if you look at the score, you can see that like it just was felt like we were in and out and it just nothing went our way. But we were playing a doubleheader because of weather, so we played the second game like 20 minutes later. So it was kind of one of those where you just had to move on super fast and just learn from it, flush it, but just ultimately just drop it. And then we ended up winning the second game. So I feel like from that point on, it just showed us how to truly just flush it and move on because I think at times we can be a little bit of an emotional team where we kind of like hold on to stuff. But I think that taught us to just, it's okay, it happens. Just learn from it and move on.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's like the most important thing as not only as like a team, but also as a player. I feel like it's so easy to get caught up in like, oh my God, like I'm 0 for 3 or whatever it may
Yeah.
be. In reality, it's like one at bat does not affect the next, or the past game does not affect the next. So I feel like that's like probably one of the hardest things that I had to learn in college. Um, but yeah, as a team, it's a lot. So moving away from softball, obviously you're excelling on the field.
Mhm.
How is it balancing school and softball? I saw that you're a psych major. I was a psych major as well. What do you want to go into like the psych field afterwards or like what do
No,
you
I'm actually getting into coaching next year. Just softball's like in my whole life, and I'm like not ready for it to be done. So I'm coming back next year to kind of like do our like scouting, dartfish, like all of that kind of like tech stuff that all the coaches have to know these days. And then yeah, I'll go down the coaching path. But
Nice.
balancing school and softball, it definitely was something that I had to learn. School was not my favorite thing ever. Um, but I think just getting it done, I wish there was some secret sauce for it, but I really just had to like just do it.
Literally, you literally just have to experience it and like learn from your
Yeah.
mistakes.
Yeah.
Just to go into coaching, it's funny, I was like the opposite. I was like, I do not want to coach at all. I've played softball for so long, like I'm so ready for it to be done. What do you feel like what made you choose or to choose to go into coaching?
Yeah, I feel like just because personally I learned a lot in college and it was not just like this smooth sailing, steady slope of everything going great. I really like was tested and like I said had to learn a lot. And I'm looking back now and I'm like, I wish I just knew all of these things like earlier on, but I really believe that everything happens for a reason and that every year that I had it for some bigger purpose. So, and I think that's like so I can use that to help other people because I just want everyone to like learn all of those things as quickly as possible. But also I just like I love softball. It's it's a lot sometimes, but I really do love it at the end of the day, and I'm just not ready to step away from it. But I definitely am ready for like a role change, so I'm excited to pass my knowledge on.
Yeah. What do you feel like is the biggest lesson that softball has taught you? Because I feel like for the reason that you want to coach is you said that you learned a lot from this game. What do you feel like you
Mhm.
learned the most from?
Just being present, honestly, just being where your feet are, and just like not taking anything for granted. I just was such an overthinker in the past, and I understand, like, I have a high softball IQ. I understand the mechanics and all of that stuff, so I'm not worried about that. But I just think a lot of athletes get so caught up into their game and so consumed by it that they kind of lose sight of like what's important. So I just think I want to be able to like balance everything that goes along with being a student athlete as a coach, and just push people, but also like know exactly when to lift them up and when to be someone to lean on, I guess.
I definitely feel like the psych major will definitely help on that
Yeah,
side. That
yeah,
is what I
for
feel like
sure.
that's really important. So last question, looking ahead, you've got a few weeks left in this Oregon jersey. What do you feel like you want to accomplish in your last couple weeks, or what are your emotions for the last few weeks of season?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I think is just enjoying it with my teammates. Our class has 9 seniors, so it's a lot. So just enjoying every step of it with them. But I think also having 9 seniors is pretty dangerous towards the end of the end of the season, because none of us want to be done playing. So I think when you look at just our senior day alone, we had so much fun playing together, and we all just fed off of each other, and we got the result that we wanted. So I think it would be cool just to see how far that takes us. Obviously, we have the last Pac-12 season coming to an end, so it would be cool to end it with a bang at the Pac-12 tournament and see how far we can go there. But then also, we went to Supers last year, and we were 2 games away from going to the College World Series, and I grew up watching the World Series, so I always knew how much I wanted to go to Oklahoma City. But I think being 2 games away was just like, and tasting it, it just made all of us want it that much more.
Yeah, that is probably one of the worst feelings, like knowing like you could have gotten it done and it just like didn't
Yeah.
happen. But I feel like that's only gonna you like it's only gonna give you more fire for this
Yeah.
upcoming like postseason
Mhm.
to get the job done.
Yeah.
You guys definitely have the team for it, so
Yeah.
definitely looking forward to seeing you guys there. That's all I have for you. If like as far as questions, I don't know if you have any questions for me. But yeah, at the end of each interview, I try to just give the other person an opportunity to ask me some questions.
Mm.
Probably I should have let you know before.
No, you're good. What was your favorite softball memory?
uh okay. So obviously in 2019 we won the national championship and
Uh-huh.
um I don't know if you know, so it's just a really long week. Like you get there like 3 to 4 days before the first game even starts. You're doing like media, like there's like a bank, there's like so much stuff you're doing. And then so the first game, it's like if you win the first game, you have the next day off or something like that. Or no, sorry. If you win the first game, you play the next day, then if you win that day, then you have the next day off. It's just a long week, right?
Mhm.
So like my whole family came out and obviously super excited to watch. And we finally like made it to the World Series, and my brother was gonna graduate. It was sorry, not even graduate. He was gonna promote to eighth grade, and or to seventh grade, sorry, from sixth grade. And my mom and my grandma and like majority of my family had to leave once we made it to the championship because they're like, okay, we've taken a lot of time off work. Your brother has his graduation, like this whole thing. So I was like, okay. So my dad and my sister were the only ones that stayed for the championship series. And we ended up winning. And so obviously like everyone's like on the field and everything. And I were just being like, oh my God, like I was hoping like my whole family would be there. Obviously, I knew my dad and my sister were there, but um everyone's like on the field and I'm like, okay, like where's my dad? Where's my sister? And then like I just like I see him and like beelined it straight to him and like we hugged for like 3 minutes, just like crying, like just obviously like your dad is such a pivotal moment in like your career, like help me get to where I am even till that day, like was I would hit with him and stuff. So it was kind of just felt like even though like I had won the championship, like we had won it together. So that was like probably my favorite softball memory ever is like holding or getting to hug my dad on at the World Series after we won.
That's awesome. My dad and I are the same way. I always say I have Coach Marta as my hitting coach, but my dad is my hitting coach.
Exactly, same. I always said my dad's my hitting coach. Like
Yeah.
he essentially built my swing.
Yes,
So
exactly.
yeah, that's my lifelong hitting coach right there.
Yeah.
I'm assuming anything else.
Nope, I think
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. You guys have Stanford this weekend?
we are bye week, and then Stanford is our next pack series.
Okay. Well, good luck this weekend. I'm sure you guys will do great as always. But yeah, good luck the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Of course, have a